Hillary. Bishop, Congressman, and President. Is that the order?
Right.
Congressman and President.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Those three guys did a lot of good.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Good evening. Welcome to the October Chamber or Calumet Revisited Forum. I am Michael Bowes of the Association for the Wolf Lake Initiative, and I'm co-host with Valerie Penninan, Professor Emerita of History at Calumet College of St. Joseph. It is funded in part by the Indiana Humanities and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Before we hear from tonight's speakers, are there any announcements? If not, I have one. 30 days from now on November 3rd at the 7th Annual Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meeting will be held at this very room 200 at Calumet College, and it begins about 8:30 in the morning, and it extends through 3 p.m. at least. The presentation this evening is being recorded. The recording will be available within a week on Ollie's website. Would everyone please remain on mute? After the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. This evening, we will hear from Walter Skiba, Professor Emeritus in Humanities, and Dr. Amy McCormack, President of the Calumet College of St. Joseph. They will speak on the history of the college, including the contribution of Dennis Rittenmeyer, and they will also talk about the college's future. And Walter starts first.
Can you get that full screen, that picture, or no? Yeah. Okay. Good evening. I'm Walter Skiba, Professor Emeritus in the Humanities, and I've been at the college for quite a few years. I'm going to talk a little bit about Dennis Rittenmeyer in his major accomplishment overall. Then I want to spend some time focusing on one of them. And then I'll turn the forum over to Dr. Amy McCormack, and she probably have some further thoughts on former President Dennis Rittenmeyer and the state of the college today in the near future. So I'd like to start, focus on the image on the screen. A picture says 1,000 words or is worth 1,000 words. And this one says a lot. It's from Rittenmeyer's retirement party. It was held at the Center for Visual and Performing Arts in Munster in June of 2011. He had been president of the college for 24 years. He began July 1st, 1987. So that's a long time. But the picture tells a lot. So which one is Dennis Rittenmeyer? He's the person on the right as you're facing the image. And how does he look?
Happy and at peace.
Yeah, I would I would certainly agree. Happy, satisfied, just happy to be there. Says a lot that he's made the right decision. He was 66 years old at this time. I should mention that he died this past April, April 13th, I believe. So we mourn his loss, and it's certainly appropriate to do some tributes because he did accomplish quite a bit. Now, who are the people next to him? Well, in the middle, longtime congressional representative Pete Visclosky in the middle. And on the end, left end,
Bishop Melchett.
right, the former bishop of the Diocese of Gary, Dale Melchett. Now, Rittenmeyer was the first lay person president, but not only that, he was not a Catholic, but he had a very good relationship with the missionaries of Precious Blood that sponsor this school, and they sponsored St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, and a very good relationship with the bishop in the Diocese of Gary, as you can see, and also a very good relationship with Pete Visclosky, and Rittenmeyer had a lot of respect from political leaders, community leaders of various kinds, business people, and certainly that helped him accomplish a number of things, including 2 successful capital campaigns, the first 2 in the history of the college. The campaigns helped to result in the first new building the college ever put up. That's and it's named the Rittenmeyer Athletic Center, and it opened in 2009. And the second accomplishment was the construction of, I still refer to it as the new addition, 2012, that right in the middle of the building. It contains the Catsanias Commons. There's a 2nd floor space, and the third floor space devoted to science and some art classes. But the new construction on both of them. During his presidency, he worked very closely with Tom Catsanias, who was chairman of the board of trustees. They were really a team, and in fact, after I interviewed Rittenmeyer 3 times and Catsanias the same number, and I'm convinced that they were very good individually, but together they were greater than the sum of their parts, and both of them, agreed with me on separate occasions. But anyway, so Rittenmeyer and Catsanias helped stabilize the college's finances. The college was in real trouble when Rittenmeyer took office. Catsanias said it took about 5 years to stabilize the finances, and that was what helped raising the tuition. In fact, it went up from $92 a credit hour in 1987 to $440 in 2010, in the fall of the year he retired. He reasoned that the college was very dependent tuition dependent primarily. About close to 90% of the revenue came from tuition. So he didn't hesitate to raise tuition. Historically, there were efforts to just keep it relatively close to the secular institutions. So it wasn't too far above them, but Rittenmeyer just raised it. He knew that the money was very much needed there. Also, he saw the beginnings of an endowment. Now, a lot of credit for this goes to a longtime business professor, Jim Couture, who pushed him a number of times and gave him the first check for the endowment. But today it's $4 million. It's grown since, but there was nothing when he first took office. I think his biggest accomplishment was athletics. Joined intercollegiate athletics. And I'm going to talk about that more so, but the athletics have just transformed the campus very much. Another accomplishment was master's degrees. Now, he didn't actually put one together, but he supported an effort to draw the Public Safety Administration. It was done by two public safety professors and Dr. Eileen Stenzel, who was very, very well respected for her work in assessment. So she made sure that a strong assessment was built into it. There, another big accomplishment was the public safety management program. He requested that Dave Levansky, who was a former Chicago police officer and eventually got a doctorate from Loyola University, he requested that he draw up a program to attract more Chicago police officers. Now, they were coming here. A good relationship began in the late 1960s, but they had to go through the traditional program, which took them a long time. And there were problems sometimes with attendance and whatnot. But they both agreed, Rittenmeyer, that a better format was the accelerated program. Organization management, it was called, and using organization management. It was an accelerated program, a cohort. So a cohort would continue, take one course after another. They were always together. And Levansky made sure that they had both day and evening class options available for that time. So I'd like to talk more about the athletic program and go back a little bit into the history of the college. Go back into the 1960s. From the very beginning, intramural sports were always done. Yeah, primarily male, but there were female sports too, like volleyball. Basketball was a big one as well. Sometimes baseball, sometimes bowling. And they did play other colleges in the beginning. They would, play basketball against Purdue, Calumet, and St. Joe's. Yeah, they regularly they played. But in the late 60s, Purdue and IU both joined NAIA, National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics. So for conference play against other schools. And pretty much they stopped playing then with against a place like us. Everybody called it St. Joe's at the time in East Chicago. That we weren't part of any conference at all at that time. So in 1968, a group of students, the intramural committee, requested that the faculty, the athletics committee, to join the NAIA for basketball, men's basketball they were thinking of, and possibly baseball as well. They pushed hard. Now, the faculty committee was not very receptive at the time, and they gave a few reasons, which are, I think, quite interesting today. For one, the cost. Yeah, sure, there were expenses involved, definitely. The college had no facilities of its own, no equipment, et cetera. And of course, costs in joining the association. Another concern raised was doubts about students' interest and support of the athletes. Very interesting one. Another one, unfavorable correlation between sports and scholarship. And it's an issue that continues to be raised periodically. Anyway, so, but Father Lou Osterhage, who was Dean of Students at the time, and part of his role, he oversaw student activities. He didn't just ignore the request. He said, well, put together a more detailed proposal with the costs and everything, and we're willing to take a look at it. But they never got that far. When an incident happened, which I won't go into now, but at least for a while, the idea of intercollegiate athletics was shelved. But not for long. In 1970, a group of students approached the Board of Trustees about supporting the same thing again. Intercollegiate athletics, mainly basketball, but possibly some other sports as well. So what happened? What happened there? Well, one of the board members at the time was David Condon, businessman, sports writer, and he ran a regular column called In the Wake of the News on Saturday mornings. And he was very supportive. Students talked to him about their requests, and he urged board members to take it seriously, give students see what they could do to support the students. And he wrote he wrote about his support in his column, January 10, 1970. And the column concluded with the statement, someday you will be cheering your basketball team. How about that? 1970. He had to wait, he and others, until 2000 for that to happen. Let's fast forward to 1996. The first capital campaign that Rittenmeyer ran, 1996. And there was a promotional video prepared just as the current campaign with that, which I think Amy's, I'm sure she's going to talk about. but there was a promotional video for the campaign, which began with these words. And yes, it did begin with these words. We don't have athletics, but I remember that very well. And the creators of the video talked to the faculty about, finding ways to recruit more adults. And I remember I spoke up. I said, we need younger students somehow. We can't just rely on adults. Another big factor was the decline in enrollment through the 1990s because of the recession, 1989 recession or so, brought in quite a few adults, and enrollment went up for a few years. But then beginning in 1993, the Clinton administration took over the economy, picked up the adults, and went back to work. So enrollment declined very gradually, but steadily through the decade. And Rittenmeyer all brought it up every year. We've got to do something about this to reverse this decline. So he was very concerned, obviously. In 1999, in fact, the college had only 13% of the traditional students were traditional college age. Only that's all, 13%. That's obviously very low. The enrollment was 1,003. It had been sliding down. The average age was 35. Give you some idea of the picture. Well, along came Jim Aducey, an alumnus of the college and an adjunct professor. He had a law degree, so he taught in business management and in the law enforcement program, the legal courses in particular. And he had a couple of daughters and became familiar with, the high school sports scene in the area. Title IX, of course, women's equality, women's and men's sports, lots of participation. And he pressed Rittenmeyer a number of times. Well, what about athletics? And Rittenmeyer was not receptive to it in the beginning because, we hadn't done it. But Aducey pushed, and his main goal of the reasoning behind his push was that it would give students who live in the area, Calumet region, Chicago area, the opportunity to continue to play their sport in a conference in college, but instead of going away to school to play sports, they could live at home and then attend here. And many of them, a fair number anyway, would want to do that. But neither he nor anyone else, I didn't see any statements in writing, or I never heard anything, would foresee that the athletic program would attract not only students from nearby, but farther out in Indiana, but as far away as Florida, Arizona, California, Las Vegas, you name it, and other countries, international students from Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Spain, Germany, France, and to name a few countries. But nobody foresaw that at this time, and nobody foresaw the way would transform the campus. I think it was a major mistake when the college moved here too in 1976 to, well, students requested, are we going to have facilities for sports? Well, there was no gym in any of the buildings and really no plans to build anything or join a conference because it's going to cost a lot of, cost a lot of money to move here. The college incurred major debt in the move and didn't want to or need to spend more money on intercollegiate athletics. My view, they made a big mistake. Enrollment would not have declined as much as it did. I think if intercollegiate sports had been established in the late 60s, 70s, and even when we moved here, there may not have been any decline in enrollment, but I think it would have been greatly reduced. But hindsight is 2020, of course. That's easy for me to look back and say that, but I'm convinced. So Rittenmeyer eventually gave it a serious thought. Well, he knew that there was a real problem. We couldn't make it on adults alone. But he did his research. He put a lot of work into it. He really did some research and the costs, the procedures involved in joining NAIA, made it to take a serious effort to look into the matter. And say no, well, there were local facilities and in the Whiting, Robertsdale, and the Hammond area as well. But they needed an athletic director, somebody, well-respected, and he found one, a candidate, Andy Jusick, who had coached for some 30 years at the elementary and high school level, 30 plus years, and was very well respected. He got coach of the year a couple of times. And he and his wife ran a sporting goods store in Whiting, downtown. So Rittenmeyer arranged a meeting with him. And Jusick, I talked to him about the beginnings in some detail, and Jusick thought, well, okay, they're going to talk about, could be just fly-by-night scheme. Well, let's, think about possibility of athletics. But when he met with Rittenmeyer, Jusick said to me that he was really impressed, that he clearly done some serious work, some homework, and thought through the matter very carefully. This was not a fly-by-night scheme. It was a serious venture, and that Jusick would get support enough to get what was needed in order to establish a functioning operation. And yes, Rittenmeyer really deserved that credit for the operation. So it began in 2000. Anyway, it began in the fall of 2000 with two sports, just men's and women's basketball. Jusick coached the women as he had at Bishop Knoll and elsewhere. And then there was in the spring a softball team, kind of an unofficial beginning, but they got quite a bit of attention anyway. So the first 25 athletes for the first semester in 2000. And then they picked up 7 more in the spring. And that was the start of the big operation today. Approximately 65% of traditional full-time students are athletes here. And there are quite a few sports in the operation. All right, I'm going to turn this. I'm going to turn it over at this point to Dr. McCormack, and she'll have a lot of good things to say.
Let me just. I'm going to first just pick up on a couple things that Walter said, because we now have, I was thinking 320 athletes, rounded, give it or take. So we started with 25 and now we have 320. I was quickly calculating that I think that's about 75% of our students right now, of our total student body. Our athletes. And the other thing, picking up on how long it took Dennis to start athletics here at Calumet College. In 2021, January of 2021, I had a conversation about sprint football. And with two other college presidents, one from St. Mary of the Woods in Terre Haute, the other from Fontbonne in St. Louis, about the idea of a Midwest Sprint Football League. There is the Collegiate Sprint Football League on the East Coast. It's been around for 100 years. And in this January conversation, they told me about, I wasn't familiar with sprint football. They told me about sprint football and whether we would be interested in starting the Midwest Sprint Football League. And that was January of 2020. And by fall of 2022, we had launched a sprint football team. We had also been a founding member of the Midwest Sprint Football League that now has 8 colleges in it, and one more that will possibly come in next year. And our goal is to get to 10 to 12. And we currently have about 85 sprint football players. So again, an opportunity to, when I looked at how that fit with our mission, we talk about opportunity for students. And sprint football was another opportunity for those students that have played football their entire high school, but they're not big enough to play collegiate football. To play sprint football, you have to weigh less than 178 pounds. So it gave these students an opportunity to continue their collegiate career and play a sport that they love. So that was relatively fast, but it was in reaction to much what Dennis's reaction was to grow enrollment. And how do we grow enrollment for the college? So we went from 240 to now 320 athletes. So it did help us grow. But the other thing it helped us do is build a residence hall. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the things I just wanted to do is to give you sort of an overview of where we are today. And I also calculated, after you mentioned the graduate students versus 13%, you said 13% of our students were traditional, I think.
Yes.
And today that is 60%. So of our total student population, which is almost 680, that we have about 415 that are traditional students. So many of those athletes. So what I thought I would do is just give you a snapshot of our most recent students. So this is just the freshman class. It's not our total student body, but just the freshman class, and give you an idea of the top 10 majors. F1 stands for first time, full-time freshmen. So these are new students that are coming to Calumet College right from high school, or it may not, they may have had a gap year, but they are full-time first-year students. And these are the top majors. So this is something we look at because this gives you the most recent demand for majors. So business management, that has always been a big major for us. So about 30% of our new freshmen are in business management. Kinesiology, that is a relatively new major. Walter, you may know, but I think it's 5 years old, or I think it's new since I've been here. So I've been here 6 years. So that's relatively new major, but this year it's our second largest major. Now that is probably highly correlated with our athletes. So kinesiology, the study of movement, body, they take anatomy, nutrition. So students that want to go on to physical therapy, occupational therapy, athletic training, some of them just want to do sports performance or work in, training, in sports training, or coaches. That's another for majors of the students that I've talked to. They want to be coaches. So they pick kinesiology thinking that might be paired with coaching someday in the future. General studies, that's not that uncommon for that to be a pretty significant major. That's your undecided. So we all know that freshmen come in, they don't all know what they want to do, so they end up in general studies. But this just gives you an idea of the most recent freshmen that have come to Calumet College. This is how they break up in our majors. Criminal justice has historically been top 1 or 2 majors. So to see it at number 5, that might tell you a little bit about the environment. That's also education, getting students interested in being teachers again. We're working really hard at doing that. The other thing, this is race and ethnicity, but to give you a breakdown, one of the things that we've always been known for is being a very diverse institution. And I think that is one of our great assets. And for our freshman class, this gives you the breakdown of our diversity. And we are we have the highest diversity index of any institution in the state of Indiana. And we're in the top 10 in the country. So they calculate diversity, the mix, but also they look at the gender, the age. So we are 30% African-American. And one of the things I like to point out is this unknown. So I would be guessing that might be 2 races, biracial, but we are seeing also people that don't want to claim an ethnicity or don't believe that they fit into one of those boxes. So we have, this gives you the breakdown of the number of students. So 46 African-American, 45 that say unknown, 39 Hispanic. But I'm sure in that 45, they are distributed somewhat between African-American, even white and Hispanic. It's just they don't want to claim ethnicity. Another gender, this is another interesting data point. So when we look at our gender of our freshman class, 51% identify as male, and we have 30% female. And then a growing trend in this generation, we have unknown. So now there's definitely not 18% that are unknown, but they don't want to claim because that is, I think it's a little trend not to be put in a box of male or female. So, and then we do have others. So I think that those are people that are intentionally, trying to explore their gender, but the unknown, I'm guessing it's people that are pushing back and just saying, I don't want to claim a gender. So I find that interesting, but that's just an interesting point. But what I do want to say for Calumet College is we are unusual because in most colleges, especially small privates, the majority of students are female, 60 to 70% compared to 40 to 30% male. And we are a majority male. So for us, how do we retain males? Because on a national statistically, females have a much higher retention rate, not much, but they have a higher retention rate than males. So for us, having our males involved in sports, activities, engaged in the community, which we are very engaged. You see our students out at Wickedly Whiting and the Pierogi Fest is very important because we definitely want to retain them and get them to graduation. And then this is a slide that picks up on a little bit about what Walter was saying and how we have changed over the years. So we started athletics in 2000. And now if you look at our percentage of athletes, we have 69, 70% of this is just your freshman class, our athletes. So it's a little bit higher because we bring in transfers that transfer in that are athletes. So that is 70% of our students are involved in sports. So again, for us, it helps build a community for the students, a team, an environment, and sometimes that helps them progress through school. But it's also in order to play their sport, and I have a lot of conversations with our athletes, your sport may be your passion, but you can't play unless you go to class and you make grades. And at Calumet College, if you attend class, our faculty want you to succeed. And so they will make sure that you have every opportunity and support to succeed, but you have to meet us halfway. So this just gives you what we are. We went from 25 athletes to, 320, but of our freshman class, we have about 110 athletes. So I want to talk a little bit about some strategic highlights for the institution. And this is just a real summary of some of the focus that we have. And the first thing I want to say is our strategic plan is entitled Strengthening and Serving Our Community. So, and actually it's our community, so that's a typo on my part, because that's our internal community and our external community. So that is the title of our strategic plan, is to strengthen and serve our communities. And we have certainly enrollment when we talk about Dennis in the past years, but Dan Lowry after that, you don't have a conversation without talking about enrollment. You said we were 90% tuition dependent. We are about 96% tuition dependent. So a majority, we are looking at ways to reduce that a little bit, but we will never reduce it significantly. So we will always be in the 90s. That's where revenue comes from, our students. Retention and student support, we have received some significant grants that really help with tutoring, wellness, really some of the mental health needs that we see in students today, and supplemental instruction to have faculty actually in the classroom so that they can support the students. Assessment, there are a number of foci that we have there under assessment. Continuing to enhance the visibility for the college. So that is really important, whether it's through social media, community engagement, video, that gets more clicks, the more video you have. So we've enhanced that. And then you talked about the cost of tuition, I think went up to 400 and something during Dennis's time, and it's over 600 now. So it's that continues to rise, but I think that the year you gave would have been 2011. So it went from 432, I think you said, to now,
440.
Okay, 440, and now in 2024, it's in the upper 600s. We have two significant grants, Title V grants, and the Title V grants are to strengthen the institution, but they are only available to Hispanic serving institutions. So we are a Hispanic serving institution, which means we have more than 25% of our students identify as Hispanic. And we are also a minority serving institution, which means more than 50% of our students come from minority populations. Because we are a Hispanic serving institution, we can apply for Title V grants. It's the Department of Education. And so we have received 2 Title V grants that are strengthening the institution, and they are both $3 million, $600,000 a year for 5 years. And so we've been able to do some facility updates. We've been able to hire some critical positions for faculty, virtual learning, student support services, and do some professional development. The other great opportunity that we have coming up is a Lilly Endowment Grant, and it is called the College Community Collaboration Initiative, CCC Initiative. And some of the things that we are hoping to do with that grant is, and this is in the grant request, is to create vibrant places to live, learn, work, and play. And so here are, we are building on the housing developments in Hammond and Whiting. Of course, we aren't doing that, but we have to have a matching proportion in our grant application, and the housing developments in the area qualify for that. So again, how do you create vibrant places to live, learn, work, and play? Housing, attractive housing, safe communities, and good schools. That's where we come into play, because we have programs in public safety, which you talked about. That's a growing program for us. We have been the teachers of teachers, so being able to continue to educate teachers and doing hopefully some environmental work or education. Workforce development with business and technology, health and wellness, and again, public safety. Those are areas that we're looking at expanding under this Lilly grant, and then looking at some outdoor facilities for the communities. So our athletic field, a recreation space, all the green space that will be coming away from the Clark development, being able to create some of that green space on campus. And then a fitness and flora park is what I call it for the community, where they could walk and also have fitness machines. So we're looking at that. And then expanded and remediated green space. We are in those conversations and trying to, I don't know whether it'll fit in this time frame, excuse me, but we're staying attuned to that as well. The campaign, I wanted to just mention a little bit about the campaign, and I wanted to just start by showing our videos. So you talked about the videos, that the first line of the video, and I think the first word of this video is change. Change is always constant, I think, but let me see if I'm right. I need to know that.
Change. They say it's inevitable. It keeps marching on. It's life's only constant. The way things are done today isn't how they'll be done tomorrow. As Northwest Indiana's only Catholic college, we're constantly asking, what does it take to prepare our students to excel in a rapidly advancing world? For starters, it takes a loving academic environment, open to growth, and rooted in faith. It takes state-of-the-art facilities, equipped with the latest technology, and faculty who are stretching the limits of their disciplines and strengthening the minds of their students. A dynamic and diverse learning environment where students and faculty come together, celebrate the rich heritage of industry in our region, and foster a culture of excellence, wellness, respect, and compassion in their pursuit of knowledge. A residence hall where young people can live and learn, grow in independence, embrace community engagement, and form strong friendships and lasting memories. An on-site multi-purpose athletic field to promote fitness of mind, body, and spirit as our student athletes advance their skills and continue our Crimson Wave tradition on the field, court, and track. It takes a commitment to ensure that every graduate enters their chosen profession with intellectual competency that exceeds the industry standard. But perhaps most importantly, it takes a community of scholarship funding donors and supporters who share in the guiding vision of the missionaries of the precious blood, that education should be affordable and accessible to every student. It takes you. Help us continue our mission of nurturing the hearts and minds of Northwest Indiana's most promising leaders, just as it began nearly 75 years ago. Because despite what they say, some things never change.
So that's our current campaign video. So change. They say it's inevitable, but some things never change. So I just want to highlight a couple things. The 7th floor, just from a community perspective, the 7th floor currently is an unused space on the campus. So one of our projects is to make that a real community space for our external and internal community, but a space that the community can use. But also we plan to use, and not too many of these particular renderings that you can see it, but we really want to use this space to educate and enhance we're calling it the heritage room. So really to spread knowledge about the industrial heritage of our region, the migration that came to work in all the industry. So we are trying to use this space as an active and passive learning space, but also an event space for the community. But we will have informational kiosk or digital displays that will share information about our history, but really the history of the region, some of the school, but it's really about the history of the region. For example, like Lost Marsh, I was there yesterday, what that used to be, and the environmental, you wouldn't call it restoration, but enhancement. So you might be able to show, you know, the before and after of those pictures. Campus beautification, this is another piece of our campaign. It's a very small piece, but we had targeted 75,000. We've raised more than 200,000 for some of the campus beautification. This is our food pantry on the 1st floor, and that was an anonymous gift that allowed us to do a display kitchen and really enhance our food pantry. So it is very inviting. And we have this beautiful mural, and then we have funds to make sure that we can not only just have non-perishables, but also fresh vegetables, frozen meats, and things like that. This was a mural that was done on the side that reflects, again, our industry, Wolf Lake, the arts, the diversity of our students, the diversity of the flora around campus. So that was done by the Indiana Destinations Grant. Of course, we're going to do a little restoration to our alumni park and make that a more inviting space. So we're working on that to make enhancements, and just the curb appeal for the college. Housing, you can see that these are really early pictures, but the inside does pretty much look like some of these pictures. This is the third floor St. Gaspar Study Lounge. This is the 2nd floor hospitality area, and through that little window looks down into the atrium, but that was also in the video. Our housing is completely full, and we have a waiting list. So we have housing at the Ileana and on campus, and we are at capacity. So that was an investment that we made through a lease arrangement, and we're trying to raise money so that we can pay that developer off and make it more financially attractive for the college. Dining, that's on the 2nd floor. So if you go out here, and these meetings have always been on the 2nd floor, you've probably noticed an enhancement. This is, it currently is the Myers Family Commons. And then we hope to create more of a servery area where the food preparation goes, that would be called the Cafe Comida. So this is the first phase done, and then we are looking to enhance that even further, mostly serving our residential students. So they have their dinner up here, their lunch and their breakfast is in the Commons. A lot of times that's grab and go, but that there is a place for them to have dinner. It's also the study buddy. I think it's called the Myers Family Lounge or Study Buddy. Athletics, you've heard a lot about athletics. The other thing I wanted to say about athletics is the international recruitment that you referred to. I went to our women's volleyball game on Saturday, and we had our first win in really program history over Olivet Nazarene, who is always very good in volleyball. Our women's volleyball team, I'm sure they were shocked, but we have women from kind of just all over, 2 from Spain, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, a couple from Hammond, 2 from Florida. So when I look at how that team of girls get to know each other, and that we're able to bring the world to Calumet College and to see just the closeness of the team, I just love that, because I think it just provides, it's not only cultural diversity, but for like myself, I didn't travel at all until after I got out of college. It allows students to really meet people from around the world. And this is our sprint football team. And we also have international students on our men's volleyball team as well. So again, Latin America, Spain, and our coach for volleyball, I should say, is from Cancun. So she also does a lot of recruitment in Central America for tournaments that she goes to. So that's just some highlights on the projects I thought you might be, there's more projects in the campaign, our scholarship support, and certainly our annual fund, but I just thought I'd highlight the ones that I thought would have a community outreach. So, and then I left it for questions if you have any. And I can watch if someone has questions in the chat. Feel free to put it in the chat, and I'm happy to answer as well. Anything you want to add, Walter, to mine, or any questions for Walter too as well? I have had a chance to spend some time with Andy Jusick, and actually I saw Dennis Rittenmeyer in January, and in addition to having the athletic and recreation center named, he and his wife also named one of the residence hall suites, because discussion of bringing a residence hall to the campus started in his presidency. So we have 3 resident assistant suites, 1 on every floor, and they are named for our 3 presidents. So we've all donated, both Dennis Rittenmeyer's on the 3rd floor, and then Dan Lowry's on the 2nd, and I'm on the 1st. So that's a great statement, because all 3 of us were involved in dreaming and thinking about bringing residential living.
How do I bring it back?
Oh, that's okay. Well, then stop sharing, and then I can just look for if we don't have anything in the chat. Yeah. So I think you can probably just here. Let me do the stop sharing. Don't want to close yours out. So
I wonder if we could Zoom.
yeah, here, 1 second. Let me close this out. There we go. You get one in the Zoom. Okay, well, thank you for those online too.
To access the 7th floor, I think you would have to put in another elevator.
Right, so we have an elevator that'll go up to the 6th floor, our current elevators, and then just a 2-stop elevator that'll go from the 6th floor to the 7th floor is what we're looking at.
So are you still open to questions?
Yeah, sure.
So first off, I'd like to congratulate you on your pollinator garden. I think that's fantastic. It just brings it to the forefront that the environment is so important, and that you're willing to embrace it as you walk through the front doors. And then that leads me to, when I looked at the campaign, the video, a lot of times you showed these fantastic trees in the background. You showed the trees. It wasn't this stark, empty, there's a building. You kind of, whoever filmed the video, used those trees to say, hey, look at this, is a mature setting here. Look how beautiful it is. And then I thought, well, do you have a plan? Is there some sort of site plan in addition to student housing, athletic fields to yearly visit? Have you planted any oak trees? Have you done anything for promoting the environment in addition to what you've already done?
Yes, so we have been working with the Department of Forestry, and I think we've planted nearly 20 trees. I think that was just last year. But we are in line and in conversation with them to plant additional trees. So I know a couple of them are out in the Alumni Park already. We have 2 or 3 up in front, and then we have several when you come in on the side. You can see them right there.
So I read the article the other day about the grant you got me because you're a Hispanic serving
right
college or university, and I thought that was fantastic. And then I think with the way the world is going and environmental, it would be a great opportunity to have the students plant those trees and take advantage of a news article in that vein.
Yeah, I don't know if we had any press release because students did work with it. The students planted all of them. So
that would be great.
Yeah, so I know we had it covered, but maybe we didn't get any media coverage, or it might have been on the online only, the Northwest Indiana Life. So, but the other thing, as we work with the Department of Forestry and we develop more alumni park, we will also look for their guidance to plant trees there too.
Great. Thank you.
So, yeah,
Very comment. I heard some time ago I said that a picture needed to be taken of your athletes running along over by the beach.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that was one. I saw the trees, but I just think it's kind of also important to kids. That means a lot to them too.
Yes, we have a lot of pictures on social media of our students in the park running, or now they do a lot of their workouts on the lakefront. So we put it on social media for sure, but I don't know having some in our like something up here. Yeah,
might have been when I was a kid.
Anything else? Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. You take it over now.
Okay. Thank you for attending tonight's forum. We will resume on November 7th with a presentation by Dr. Ted Karamansky of Loyola on Native Americans of the Calumet region. So thank you for attending this evening, and we'll see you next month. Okay.